Welcome, Queens, to another episode. I have a very special guest and friend with me today. It's one of my previous client, Laura Sullivan. I'm going to read Laura's bio to you and then introduce her. So Laura is a Support and Wellbeing Officer at the University of Nottingham by day and has a keen interest in helping others. Laura has a bachelor's degree in English literature and American studies and gained a master's in psychology in 2020 and wrote a dissertation, Laura. Dissertation, thank you. Entitled Women and Identity, How Does Your Menstrual Cycle Make You Feel About Yourself? Laura is a keen singer and enjoys amateur musical theatre in her spare time. So without further ado and me messing all the words up, Laura, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. It's lovely to be here.
Great. Let's go into the fire questions.
Let's do it.
All right. Number one, favourite food?
Oh gosh, number one. Oh God. There's so many things flitting through my mind, but pizza comes to mind first.
Good choice. Number two, what's your favourite time of the day?
I would say early evening, sort of around maybe between 6 and 8 o'clock.
Why?
Just because I find that I've got home from work, I've managed to get myself a cup of tea and just have a bit of downtime. And then it's usually food time as well. And I enjoy my food.
Amazing. Number three, do you have a favourite quote or mantra or saying that you like to share with others?
Trying to think now. There's loads. I mean, I love quotes, so I always share them on social media and stuff anyway. But to be honest, it's probably more songs that I enjoy. So Lizzo, as you know, is one of my favourites.
Yes, she's queen.
Yeah, and I think Special is one of my favourite songs by her because obviously it talks about she's speaking about, I think she's speaking about herself. The way I interpret it is she's speaking about herself and she's telling herself how special she is. And so it's just really lovely to hear that. And when you're singing along, you can enjoy that and actually sing that to yourself as well.
Oh, I love that. I used to, and I still do, listen to love songs that have been written to another person and then actually sing them to myself.
Yeah. I think I've always done that over the years as well. I think it's because I've always been into singing since I was little. So music's always been in the house. So it's always been something that I've enjoyed doing. So yeah, I think I've always loved love songs as well.
Yeah, such a gift to ourselves, isn't it?
Yeah, it's lovely.
All right. Number four, describe yourself in 3 words.
Okay, I would say kind, badass,
yes,
and curvaceous.
Oh, I love that. What does that last one mean?
Just that I am a curvy lady and that
curvaceous.
Curvaceous.
Yes, yes, love it. Owning it.
Yeah.
Okay. Number 5, best experience of your life so far. I know that's like a really difficult question.
I think probably getting proposed to by Conic, my partner, because I wasn't expecting it and I was being very grumpy. And he took me to the side of the lake, which is at the university that I work at. He took me to the side of the lake and basically kind of waited for people. So it's kind of a path where lots of people walk around. They walk dogs and stuff around there. And he waited until kind of there was a bit of a clear moment and got down on one knee. And I literally just burst into tears because I was just not expecting it at all. And I was just like, yes.
That is beautiful.
Yeah, it was lovely because I was being very grumpy because I didn't want to walk around the lake. I was like, what are we doing this for?
That's epic.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you for sharing that moment with us. I love to hear proposals.
Yeah.
Okay, number 6. What are you most excited about at the moment in your life?
I think getting married is one of the things, because obviously that's just super exciting, and I never kind of thought that it was going to happen for me. So it was a big shock. And it's becoming reality now, because I've got my dress and everything. So it's like, it's all exciting. So I'm really looking forward to that. But I'm also really looking forward to like traveling more, because we plan to get married and then go away on a holiday, and go somewhere that we've never been before.
Oh yeah, that's what I want to do with my life.
Yeah.
How exciting. All right. Do you have a pet hate? And if so, what is it?
Probably do. I'm trying to think. I don't really like people that bite their nails.
Yeah, second that.
I think that it grates on me a little bit, and I can't stop thinking about the germs.
Yeah, good one. Good
And
one.
also, I don't like it, when people bite their nails that severely that it's all the way down, like they've hardly got any nails. I just think it must be really painful.
Yeah, I've never done that habit, thankfully. I've never got into that.
No, neither have I.
Yeah, but people do, yeah. Good one. Dogs or cats?
Both. I can't choose. I love them
Love
both. I have a dog and I have cats, and I just love them. So yeah, I think I had cats first, which I really enjoyed, having kittens and seeing them grow up. And they're now nearly 3. But I also love dogs. Every time I see a dog, I'm like, oh, look at that dog, it's so cute.
I love how you just owned it and was like, I'm not choosing, I'm having both.
Yeah.
I love that. Typical
Yeah.
queen thing. Okay. Number 9, is there anything that you like that others may consider weird or strange?
Uh, hmm. That's a difficult one. I'm trying to think. I don't know. I think maybe it's combinations of things. So like ever since I was little, I've really enjoyed eating yogurts with crisps in them.
Oh, yeah, that's weird.
I think it's the sweet and the savory.
Yeah.
So I used to have a yogurt at school, and then I would have like a bag of salt and vinegar crisps or something, and I would dip them in.
Do you know what? I'm going to try that because I like hot and cold, sweet and sour, spicy and sweet and savory. I like salted chocolate covered salted pretzels.
So do I.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I love
Yeah.
that.
And that's the thing. I think it just works.
Yeah. I'll trust you and I'll try and I'll let you know.
Yeah.
All right. The last quick fire question. What do you want people to take away from this podcast?
I think I would like them to take away that it's okay to be yourself, that actually it's not you that's wrong, it's society and all of the things that we kind of be pressured into or told that we should be a certain way, that actually it's that's wrong, it's not you.
Oh, boom. I love that. So let's go dive into the meat and potatoes, if you like, of this conversation. But I want to start off with how we met and what caused you to reach out to me and sign up for coaching, if you don't mind going back in time and describing like how you felt around food in your body when we met.
Okay. So yeah, so I was diagnosed with binge eating disorder, and basically I kind of self-diagnosed. I went to the doctors and said, I think I've got this, because I'd looked up the symptoms and things, because I was searching for an answer.
Yeah.
Searching for some kind of answer as to why I really struggled to not eat so much as other people. And also the kind of quantities that I was eating it in, and hiding food and things like that. It was the behaviors and things that I was displaying. I was kind of concerned about it. And I kind of thought, what is it? What am I doing so wrong? And so I was diagnosed with binge eating disorder. I did have some treatment through an NHS service, which was consisted of like a dietitian and a therapist. And we started looking at body neutrality and kind of, instead of thinking, why am I so fat? Why is it so bad? It was like, looking at health at every size, looking at body neutrality, looking at things that were kind of, why is it so wrong? Who says it's so wrong? So I was already kind of on that part of the journey, I suppose. And then that treatment came to an end. And I was still struggling with quite a lot of the behaviours. And I also felt as though every time I went, it was, I'd got to get weighed.
That didn't make sense, because what you were saying, I was like, oh my God, I'm so happy to hear that that's how you were treated. But then now what you're saying, that's a misalignment with what they're saying, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It was strange because I was like, why am I getting weighed if it's not an issue?
Mm-hmm.
But I know that obviously for their kind of, it's almost like for their statistics or for their findings, maybe they have to write a report or something when they've seen a client. They'd got to have some sort of numbers on that. And it's like the only thing that they would ever do was weigh you.
Mm.
And I was confused by it and kind of thought, this is just feels a bit wrong. Because every time I get on the scales and I'm a bit heavier, I feel bad about myself again.
Yeah.
So I was looking for something else.
Yeah.
And I think it was through podcasts that I found you. Obviously we're doing one today, so that's great.
Yes.
Let's find the podcast people. Yeah. I was listening to other people's podcasts, and I think you were a guest on somebody else's.
Yeah.
I can't remember off the top of my head which one it was, because I was trying to put myself in that world and listen to all the different things that I could to try and help. And I think you were a guest on somebody else's. And then I found your podcast from that and thought, oh, I'll listen to this. And then obviously your website and everything. So that's kind of how we came together, I suppose. And did you ask me what I was looking for?
No, like what you answered that beautifully, like what you were struggling with and what enabled you to reach out. And I didn't know the backstory actually, so I'm really grateful you've shared that with regards to you getting the help that was also aligned and then completely contradicting itself at the same time. What had you tried before? Because the reason I ask you these questions is obviously the people listening, if they're resonating with what you've said so far, I'm sure they're going to resonate with everything you've tried to quote, stop the binge eating. What had you tried before?
Yeah, I think with binge eating, I think I wasn't aware for a long time. And from being sort of, well, let's start at the beginning. I was 11 pound 2 when I was born. So I've always been told that I was bigger than everybody else. And, I was a chubby kid. And, it was puppy fat and it would fall off me and all of this kind of thing. And actually, looking back at pictures of me as a child, I wasn't actually that much bigger than anyone else. And it probably maybe a little, but, I wasn't kind of very overweight, I suppose. Not that that's a bad thing, but obviously this is kind of how I was conditioned.
Yes.
And basically I started dieting from probably around 12 to 14. Did Slimming World a lot of times, which we all know can perpetuate binge eating, because at the time when I started it, it was the red and green, and it was a case of you can eat as much meat as you want, or you can eat as much vegetables as you want, and it's like,
but not together.
Yeah, not together. And also like that's kind of saying there's no limit. I remember them saying there's no limit, there's no limit. So I would binge on pasta, on carbohydrates, because I was like, well, I'm still losing weight, but I can eat all these carbohydrates and do it. So I think that's kind of where it came from as well. I had a bit difficulties in my teens and some difficult relationships and things, but I think a lot of it, looking back, was probably to do with the diets that I was on, because, you know, as I know now, the diet culture perpetuates itself, and you just end up trying different things to try and do the same thing, and actually it makes it worse.
Yes, exactly that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so with regards to, you found me, you started the process, you tried all these things before. Did you think, and when I say work, I'm going to use for the podcast ear quotes, when we had our first conversation and I was describing like what you could live in, so feeling at peace around food, food just not being an issue, being happy in your body and all of that, without losing weight or without getting your food quite under control, just changing your relationship to all of that, did you think that would work for you? And if so, why? And if not, why not?
I think I wanted it to work for me because it was the thing that I was searching for. I was searching for, you know, I always used to kind of think to myself, I wish I could just enjoy food like a normal person, you know, in quotes normal, but now I know in quotes normal person. I used to think, I wish I could just accept my body and, you know, be happy and just live in my body as it is, and just, you know, not worry so much about other people and what society thinks about me. But I was also, you know, going through relationships where maybe, you know, they would make comments and things, and that wouldn't be great either. So there was always this kind of turmoil in me that it was, well, you've got to diet to lose weight, but then I don't want to do that because actually I know that that's not really helping, but I don't know what else to do. So it was always kind of like that. And I think when I met you, I really wanted it to work, but I wasn't sure that it would, because I was just so kind of wrapped up in all of that diet culture that it was, you know, everything else is pointing towards this is not going to work.
Yeah, yeah. Because we go against every single belief you've ever been taught to believe. That feels true, right? It's a belief for a reason. And then you start to question, is Victoria crazy? Well, yes, I am. But on a serious note, like, wait, because I sit here under the quote thin privilege still, right? And, you know, I actually want to ask you a personal question of like, what made you sign with me compared to someone in a similar body type to you? I'm curious for you to answer that if you feel comfortable in a moment. But I do sit here under the thin privilege umbrella. And I don't experience discrimination externally. I've experienced it all in my head, and I've had loads of comments before, of course, but it's going against every single thing we've been taught to believe. And that's the hardest part, but it's worth it when you get to the other side. So if you don't mind answering, why did you resonate with me when we're perhaps not in this similar body types?
I think it was from listening to your podcast. It was just you. It's about you. It's not about the size of your body, because I knew that you understood that as well.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes.
it's weird. It's making me feel a bit teary, but it was just you. It was everything that you were saying that I was resonating with, and I wanted to believe the same things that you were believing. And I think, you know, yes, I did look, you know, I'm not going to lie, I did look at the size of your body and think, is this going to work for me? But then I looked at other alternatives, and I was not necessarily comfortable with those either, because it didn't resonate with me in the same way that your message did. So for me, it was a bit of a no-brainer, because I was just like, I feel a connection to you. And obviously now we're friends, so it's amazing. And, you know, I literally, I love you to pieces. So it's, you know, I think that's, and I feel the love from you as well. So that's the most important thing, I think, for me, was just finding somebody that I really connected with, and that I felt as though I could work with.
Yeah, thank you, Laura. I'm receiving that, and I love you too.
Thank you.
Tell us, how would you describe your relationship with food now? And then I'm going to ask you about how you see and feel in your body. But if you were to have a relationship with food and food was a person, what words would you use to describe how that relationship is? And then I'd like you to go into the actual technical, how you see food as food, so people can see how far you've come.
Okay, so I suppose How would I describe the person? I would describe them now as a friend, really. As a friend, as somebody that I can go to when I feel hungry. And also when I have other emotions, and actually knowing that that's okay. I think it's somebody that is not in my face all the time. Whereas I think before I felt as though it was like food, food, food. I don't feel like that any longer. It's more of a, I try to listen to my body now, and actually when I'm hungry, and then I look to food. So it's like it's a friend who's always there when I need them, but they're not kind of in my face all the time.
That's such a beautiful way of describing it. So they're not overstepping boundaries. They're not like, it's not like a codependent relationship anymore where you absolutely rely on that and that alone. But I loved what you said. It's also okay to go to this friend just when you need some comfort and you're not hungry. That's absolutely okay. And that's what we do. I love that description. So what does that look like in day-to-day life for you? Does it look like eating 3 nourishing meals a day? Does it look like literally eating whenever you're hungry? And then like, what does that look like tangibly for someone who is perhaps on Slimming World and counting sins, which there's a problem with the actual word a sin for a start. Someone who's in that path like you used to be, how would you describe your relationship with food now with like the day-to-day of it?
I think the main thing is that I am calm around food. I don't panic around food anymore like I used to. And I try to stop and think before deciding what I want, because I try and listen to what it is that I actually want. Sometimes my partner will say, "What do you want for tea?" And I'm like, "Can you give me 10 minutes? Because I just need to tune in and think about what I actually really want and what I really fancy. And then I'll come back to you." So I think that is such a huge change for me, because I would just grab food before and I wouldn't really think about it. And it was almost like an automatic thing.
Yeah.
I'd be going and getting food because I needed it, but I wasn't really sure why, and it wasn't food that was necessarily nourishing for my body. So I think now I work 9 to 5, so I do kind of have certain meal times that are kind of rigid, but then like on the weekend, I do kind of free eating, where basically I just eat whenever I'm hungry, and look for something that I'm going to enjoy the most. And I think for me, like looking forward to nice food and delicious food is such a huge change, because I don't think I actually really enjoyed eating that much before.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to go into. So like, let's take Slimming World, because of course I've done Slimming World also. And if, as far as diets are concerned, all of them are bullshit, but Slimming World's one of the quote, better, I'm doing this with a funny face, but like better ones compared to like Atkins or keto, for example. But with the pasta, and I used to do the same, especially with the red days and green days, unlimited eating as much as you want is such a free for all. And because you're restricting other things, you were eating even if you didn't want to eat it.
Yeah.
So you didn't even enjoy it though. But now, because you can have a brownie without having to count sins, and because you can have cheese without having to weigh it as, what was it, your A choice or whatever they changed it to, that's so freeing. So what's it like now living in food freedom when you're not having to count, weigh, follow a plan? How does that feel to someone who just thinks, wow, I would just love to experience that? How does it feel?
It feels really liberating, because I think, yeah, like you say, counting, measuring and weighing things is just, it's just a chore. And you don't enjoy it. It's almost like you're doing it, you're only thinking about the number on the scales,
Yeah.
and you're not actually thinking about how you feel about it, and how your body feels about, what it needs. You're literally just eating for eating's sake.
Yeah.
And I think, now I don't have that. I can literally just think, what do I fancy? And then, like just literally have what I want. Like last night before tea, I had an ice cream lolly because I just fancied one. And it's like, usually I've got my mum's voice in the back of my head, bless her,
Yeah.
from when you're a kid and they say, oh, you can't have your dessert first. And it was,
Yeah.
do you know what? I can have my dessert first because I can have whatever I want whenever I
Yes.
want.
That's amazing. And would you say, I'm going to use this word only because it resonates with the listeners,
Mm,
would you say you binge anymore?
no.
No. And isn't that amazing? Allowance
Mm,
is everything, but it's the complete opposite of what we've been taught our whole entire lives. Even when nutritionists are saying, you can eat what you want, but in moderation.
yeah.
Well, I could never eat it in moderation, even though I was allowing everything. I wouldn't want one chocolate bar, I would want 5 family-size bars.
Yeah.
And then I
Yeah.
thought there was something wrong with me.
Well, there was a time where I used to sit, and I remember, I think I was still living with my parents at the time, and I would sit and I would eat one of those huge dairy milk bars, like the kind of family size ones, and a big bag of crisps as well,
Oh,
just
yeah.
like the kettle chips or something. And I'd eat that after my tea,
Mm.
and I'd have to finish it. I couldn't
Yeah.
leave any. And it was just, it just became kind of perpetual. And then it was almost like I was doing it and not really thinking about it.
Mm.
I was just going through the motions, but I couldn't not have it because it had become so integral to my life, I suppose.
Mm.
Whereas now, I can have a bag of crisps and really enjoy them and not need another one. Or I can have 2 bags of crisps or 3 bags of crisps and really enjoy them. I could have one of those big bags of crisps if I really wanted them, but actually, most of the time, I just want some of it and
Yeah.
I can enjoy it properly. And then I don't feel as though I need as much.
Yeah. So I just love it. What about your body? So how is your relationship with your body? Let's go. I loved how you used the relationship with the food analogy. Are you able to do that with your body? So if you were in a relationship with your body who was a person, how would you describe that relationship?
I think it's a little more tricky with your body. I think, well, with my body, I feel because of I think just because of everything that goes on in the world nowadays with, social media and adverts and things, although it is getting a bit better, because we just taught that, thin women are how we're supposed to look. We're supposed to be thin and that's it.
Yeah.
You're not a real woman, in our culture anyway, obviously, because
Yeah.
I know there's differences in different cultures. But so I still kind of struggle against that a little bit because I think that takes a little bit more time in accepting myself for who I am.
Mm.
But I am much more able to look in the mirror at my body and not immediately kind of chastise myself for the weight that I am or for the way that I look or for the ripples that I've got or, anything like that really. I'm more kind of neutral, I suppose. I'm not kind of
Yeah.
into the body love necessarily, although I do sometimes dance about with no clothes on to Lizzo, because I'm trying to kind of embody that a bit more.
Yes.
Um, but I think I would say that I've definitely gotten to the neutrality part. And I think for me, that's amazing because,
Mm.
as I say before, I was literally just looking in the mirror and picking spots at myself and looking how bad it was and all the rest of it. So I think
Yeah.
anyone out there that's thinking that's not possible, it really is because
Mm.
I didn't think that I would get there with that. And I think it's okay to get to the neutrality part. Obviously you've encouraged that in terms of moving through those stages rather than trying to switch from one to the other.
Yeah, it all start. I mean, even if, and I know that you will continue to unconditional love and gratitude and then positivity, I know that will happen with you because you're still showing up and doing the work. But even if you just lived forever in neutrality, oh my God, here we go again, as usual. Let's use the word acceptance. It's easy
Yes.
for my tongue to say today. Even if you lived in acceptance, without necessarily being like, oh, I look so hot today, or I'm just so in love with my body, because I love my body unconditionally, not because it looks a certain way. Some days I look in the mirror and I'm like, oh, I like the way I look today. And sometimes I'm like, ugh, but I just love myself and my body from that place. But even if you lived in acceptance, I mean, wow, how freeing is that compared to like what you said before? When, in fact, I have another question for you. Did you stop doing things in your life, or did you not wear certain things because you didn't want to show your body? And has that changed now you're at neutrality?
I think so. I mean, it's difficult to kind of describe exactly, because obviously we've gone through COVID and there were a lot of things that we stopped doing, like going on holiday and things for that period of time. So I think it's kind of difficult to know exactly what the changes have been. But I know that, I went on holiday this year. We went to Turkey and we had a lovely time. And I wore a bikini. And I've not done that for a lot of years. And, not since I was diagnosed with binge eating disorder. So for me, that was a big thing. And also, even just getting on the plane, I know obviously we've spoken about this a lot.
Yes. Yeah.
But worrying about getting in a plane seat because I knew that my bottom is larger than a plane seat, and that it would be uncomfortable, it worried me a lot. And I kind of got myself into a bit of a tiz before, and actually it was fine. I was worried about it, and yes, it was a bit uncomfortable, but the alternative was to buy another seat. And I point blank refused to buy another seat because I am one person.
Yes, yes, yes.
And I know for a fact that the aeroplane companies have made seats smaller over the years. So it's not my
Get more
fault.
people in for more money.
Exactly. And that's not my fault. So I'm
No.
not going to accept that I need to pay for another seat just because of that.
Yes, and I want to go into weight discrimination, and if you're happy to talk about it.
Yeah.
Women that are listening who resonate with what you're saying, who have the same fears around that, even, I mean, I work with clients who, when they go to a restaurant, they're looking for the type of chair where they're not going to, might not, have a awkward moment where they might not be able to fit into it. And, that doesn't cross my mind when I go out. And so I really put myself in the shoes of this person. If someone is feeling that way, what advice can you give them, both internally to like protect themselves from potentiality not being able to fit in some place, but also how can they act in the world to stand up for themselves if they feel confident to do so?
Yeah. I think internally it is the acceptance piece, in terms of, I go to a restaurant and there may be a chair with arms that I can't fit in, and that's okay. That's actually okay, because not every place will have chairs with arms, and they will usually have an alternative. So it's about seeking out the alternative. And I think having those honest conversations with the people that you're going out with
Yeah.
before you go can be really helpful as well. And just saying, look, I'm concerned that I'm not going to fit in these seats. And basically, I mean, like, Conic is great. He will go and get me a different chair. He'll go around the restaurant or the bar and go and get me a chair without arms so that I can be comfortable. Because sitting there uncomfortably is not helping you.
No, and it's not. Why should you have to do that?
Yeah, you shouldn't have to do that. And I think people just, sometimes we kind of, and I think I've definitely done this in the past, we kind of think that we've got to just accept it. And actually you don't have to accept it.
No.
You can go and seek out something else. And if that bar, doesn't have chairs that you can fit in comfortably, then you're probably not going to go back, and you shouldn't go back. Because actually, why are you supporting people that are discriminating against other people? Because that's what it is. It is weight discrimination. It's fat bias. And, it's not on.
No. Oh my God, I'm just so fired up right now because I see it as something, let's say a thin person is sat at a table and it's really wonky, like how you can't eat because it's just so wonky. I always say something, can we have something different? Can we have, like, I'm not like, can I have a different table? But can you just make it not as wonky, because it's affecting my comfort of the paid experience I'm having at this restaurant.
Yeah.
And so why should it be any different from a person just because their body is larger than the chair? It's not the body's fault, it's the chair's fault. And so I think thin women can also be fat allies and support, just as white women can support, racial and Black women and all of that, which is just about coming together.
Yeah.
How did you, Laura? So one thing you said was really key at the beginning of when you started sharing about discrimination. You said, just accept it and then say it's okay. So how did you go from perhaps in the past making you wrong for not being able to fit somewhere compared to now and being like, you know what, it is what it is, and that's okay. I'm not going to make it mean anything about me. How did you get from there to there?
Yeah. I think listening to other women in the same position, but also obviously the course being really, really helpful in terms of, looking at sections on fat bias and, why that's such a big issue for a lot of people. Reading things, following larger ladies on social media, following, Fat Travels. There's a blog or I don't think it's Instagram, Fat Travels, following other people that are in a similar position to you, getting rid of all the people that are looking at diets and, that maybe make you feel slightly uncomfortable. Just get rid of those people, because actually it's not doing you any good. And the more that you immerse yourself in that life in terms of being accepting and it's being okay to be who you are, and that it doesn't matter about your body size, and actually it's society that's wrong, the more that you can then move into actually thinking, this is okay, like it's okay that I am who I am, and actually it's not me that's wrong, it's other people that are wrong.
Yeah, love that. And what about relationships? So I know, like, throughout our time together, you've asked a few pointers on, okay, this person, perhaps a family member or whatever, has said this thing. This is how I feel. I want to explode and say all these things. How can I deliver this without, kind of without making that person wrong? How can you share with us what to do when either a stranger says some bullshit comment about your body size, or a family member? Like, obviously, I'm assuming there's two different ways you would respond.
Yeah, because I think with a stranger, it's in some respects in some respects it's easier with a stranger, because actually if you might meet them once and then that's it, they're not in your life forever, and you can kind of let go of that a bit easier. Not to say that it doesn't hurt, because it does. But I think as long as you can remind yourself of those things, like, this is a stranger, they're not somebody who I spend all of my time with, trying to rationalize it in your own mind in terms of the way that, the way that you kind of deal with it, I suppose. I've had all sorts previously. I've had a lot of comments made to me in the street. I've had people look, just staring at me and things like that. But I think now, because I am more accepting of myself, I maybe don't see that as much now.
Yes.
Because I'm not as bothered about it either.
Yeah.
So that for me is kind of, I think it just comes with time as well. I think putting the work in, doing the program, doing all the modules and everything, learning about all these different things, all of that all together kind of creates this feeling that actually it's okay and that you don't need to worry about strangers too much. When it comes to family, obviously that's difficult.
Yeah.
Because they are in your life if you want them in your life.
Yes, love
And
that.
that's the other
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, it is a choice, but it's more complicated. And before you go into the family, with what you said was really key, with when you accepted yourself and now you're at the acceptance part, we attract what we are, right, energetically. So because you're now living in acceptance, you're only attracting people who also will accept you. And if someone will say something that's not accepting, it doesn't create the same emotional response as what it used to, because you know that is all about them. It's got nothing to do with you. It's everything that has to do with them and their judgments. So that's really worth noting, that when you accept yourself, you don't experience the outside stuff like you used to, because it doesn't have that same emotional charge. So I just wanted to point that out. But yeah, let's go into family stuff, because that, I've only ever had personal relationships in terms of ex-boyfriends, things like that, say things about my weight when I gained weight. Never strangers, definitely like romantic relationships in a negative way, and family members, but from a place of like love when I've asked, should I lose weight? So it's not been like an attack. How have you dealt with perhaps an emotional attack when they're trying to be nice, but it's really not helping?
Yeah. Sorry. I think it is really difficult. And I'm not going to sit here and say that it's easy, because it isn't. But I think as long as you have got some support, so obviously, I've got you, I've got my partner Conic, who is really, really supportive, and I'm really lucky to have that. I'm not
Blessed, not lucky, blessed. He deserves you too.
Yeah, he does. I think in terms of, Conic, I think he did struggle at the beginning.
Yeah.
And he did ask questions, and he was like, but I don't understand why you're eating like this, and it was difficult, because that did hurt, and it did make me feel kind of misunderstood.
Yeah.
But I think talking about it helps. I think, especially with somebody so close as your partner, talking to them about it helps, even though it can hurt a little bit. It helps just to try and help them to understand what you're going through. And just trying to explain things in a way that they understand can really help. I think when it's other family members, if you're not living with them, it's a bit easier to kind of let go a little bit more, I suppose, of what they've said. But then it's also okay to challenge them.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think for me, like at Christmas, I particularly was quite challenging towards my family, because I was like, do you know what? No, this is not okay. When people making comments, it wasn't necessarily aimed at me, but it might have been aimed at other people, their partners or what have you. I'm trying to be quite diplomatic here with who, I'm trying not to mention any names, because
yes,
I don't want to upset anybody, and it isn't about that. I think it's about, telling other listeners how to manage these things. So I think it's okay to kind of say things such as, we don't want any fat shaming here, as a bit of a joke, but
yes,
actually still delivering that message that you want to deliver.
yeah,
It's Christmas, we don't need no fat shaming, let's just leave it as it is. Because they might comment on what somebody's eating or what have you. And it's not okay.
no,
And I
it's
think
not.
it's telling them that it's not okay, because it makes the other person feel awful, and then it's perpetuating the diet culture.
Yeah. Have you noticed a change in your family since you've been, standing up for yourself more? And I love the way that you introduced that at Christmas, because it was light, but at the same time it was delivering a like, this isn't happening and I'm going to deliver it this way, but this is my boundary. I loved how you did that. Have your family changed at all?
I'm not sure that they've changed. I think that it's really difficult, because I think that sometimes it's so ingrained in people that it takes a while for them to kind of see your point of view and see the other side of it. And because if I don't live with that family member, then I'm going to do it less, I suppose.
Yeah.
So they'll kind of get it when I see them. but I will keep reinforcing it.
Yeah.
And I think that's important as well, to know that you can keep doing that, because actually it's not okay for what they've said. And I think maybe in some respects it has got a little bit less because I keep saying it. And I think that's the thing, is sometimes just reaffirming that boundary, like you say,
Yeah.
and saying this is not okay, probably does have some kind of impact upon them.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, go ahead. And I want to point out, you can't educate someone without their permission. So I used to stop being all preachy, getting on my high horse, if you like, and being like, that's not okay because this, that, and that, and this statistic and that statistic. And if they're not open to hearing it, I mean, I deliver it in a better, like more calm way. That's also okay. It doesn't mean you don't have to set a boundary, but it just means someone has to be open to education about it. And if they're not open to being like, oh, tell me more about that, and that's okay, but you can still set that boundary to be like, right, if we don't change the subject, I'm gonna go, because that's a consequence, and it's okay if you want to carry on talking about it, go ahead, but I'm not going to be part of the conversation. And so it can get I've had to do that with my family before, quite abruptly, because it's more about them talking about themselves, fat shaming themselves in front of me. And I'm like, but that's not okay either, because they think it's okay because it's about themselves. But as you know, it's about everything, because why are they afraid of the fat that's on them now? Doesn't mean that only they're afraid of their own fat. It's fat in general, my fat, someone else's fat. And that's not okay. So like you say, anything that we can do to stop the perpetuation of the diet culture and the fear of fatness, the better. And I just love that you're stepping forward and doing that, because I won't say too much because it's a podcast, but knowing your plans for the future, it's going to have such a positive impact on the world, with you being a cycle breaker for this, and like, the next generation and the next generation to be like, this is who I am. That's okay. I'm going to show up unapologetically in the world and be myself, because that's the most important thing about life, not trying to stay thin, get thin, weigh food and all that bullshit until you die, because what's the point?
Yeah. And I think the other thing to kind of just mention is that I used to I used to say those things about myself.
Yeah.
I used to say those things about myself a lot. And my friends were like, don't say that because that's my friend you're talking about, kind of thing. And I didn't really kind of get it at the time. I was a bit like, but I'm allowed to say that I'm fat. And don't get me wrong, I am allowed to say that I'm fat. But it was almost like, if I was saying those things, they were kind of like, don't say that because that's not nice. But then at the same, it's a difficult one to kind of explain, I think, because I kind of almost felt like it was, well, they were taking my right away from me for saying that. But at the same time, I was doing it in a negative way.
It
I
depends how you're
wasn't.
saying it.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're reclaiming the word fat, because fat is so interesting, isn't it? Like, automatically the word fat means a negative connotation. Well, that's just like me saying someone's got brown hair. It's literally the same. It's just so interesting to me that there's fat and there's thin, and then one's quote good and one's bad. That's completely bullshit. It's just a descriptive word of a person's body shape. And so if
And
you
also,
reclaim it,
yeah, and also, like you say, it's a thing. It's not somebody.
no,
It's it's a cell.
it's
When all said
adipose
and done,
tissue. That's literally
yeah,
it.
yeah. And some of us have got more than others, and that's okay.
Yes. Oh my God, I love this. So, two questions left.
Okay.
Have you got, and it's okay if you haven't, but I thought I'd ask you because I know that you've been in conversation before with your partner about perhaps doing things. Have you got like a mission going forward in this fat liberation, fat positive, intuitive eating, food freedom space? Have you got any plans so people can be, watching out, maybe reaching out to you?
Yeah. I would love to, and I'm definitely looking to potentially do something within this area, because I think that it's really important to share my experience,
It is.
and try and help others along the way, with their experience and knowing that it's okay, because I think, you know, it's happening a lot more now, and it's happening a lot, particularly in America, where women are coming forward, and, you know, the health at every size is huge over there.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think we need to kind of bring that more to the UK, which is where I'm from, obviously. And I know, obviously, you're from here, but you're not here at the moment.
Yes.
And I think, you know, especially, I mean, especially for healthcare, I think healthcare is such a big thing. And there's so many ways that I have been treated in the wrong way to do with my health, where it's always been about losing weight. And I know that a lot of other people will have had the same experience, that, you know, whenever you've got something wrong with you, the doctor says, well, have you thought about losing weight?
Oh my God. I bet, does that not really, it pisses me off for you. Does that not like piss you off?
Yeah, it really does. Really pisses me off.
Ugh.
Really pisses me off. And, you know, to the point where I've had it a couple of times this week, because I've been to the doctors. I've got a sore knee at the moment. And, you know, it's like I even sit there and say to them, I'm very aware that I am overweight in terms of BMI and all of that
Yeah.
bullshit. You know, I'm aware that I am overweight, but I still need some help with this. And it's
Yes.
almost like it doesn't register.
Wow.
You know, and they still say yes, but, you know, exercise and diet are the most important things that you need to look at.
Hold on, I need to interrupt you. And I know this is not what you said, but right, imagine if I went in. I mean, my BMI was over the bullshit thingy anyway. Imagine if I went into the doctors and said, I've got a sore knee. They would describe me to not exercise, to rest said knee. Oh, like, ah,
Yeah,
carry on. I just needed to like, they would tell me the complete opposite thing
yeah,
on the
yeah.
knee. Like I would invite you or someone who's in a fat body to say, if they feel confident enough, because I get it, there's a lot of shame wrapped around it and all of that, to go to the doctors and be like, if I was a thin person, what would you prescribe me to do?
Mm. Yeah. To be honest, I may well do that, because I am so fed up of basically being told that they can't do anything for me. It's ridiculous. I mean, I basically said to them, you know, I said, it's okay telling me that I need to lose some weight and, you know, I need to exercise and diet. I said, but at the moment, I can't exercise. So what do you want me to do? Like at the moment, my knee is that sore that exercise is making it worse. You know, I need to rest it at some point. And, you know, the physio was quite understanding in terms of, she said, you know, you need to do a bit of both. But they're still basically prescribing exercise when that is going to make it worse.
And they're
And
prescribing exercise for weight loss.
yes.
Right. So here's the thing, and my voice has changed. I know I've jumped on my high horse anger a bit here. It's like saying, a doctor's like saying, because when doctors prescribe all these people weight loss to help with their condition, it's like saying, right, imagine if weight loss was a pill. And it's like me saying, you've heard me say this before, Laura. Here you go, Laura. I'm the doctor. This is a pill. There's a 95% failure rate. There's a 37% chance you'll develop an extreme disorder, like an eating disorder, from taking this pill. And there's a likely 35% chance that your condition will be worse, aka you'll put more weight on when you take the pill. Are you going to take it? Well, no, thank you. That's what they're doing. So it's all right them saying if you had less body weight, then it would be less pressure on your knee, blah, blah, blah. I'm not debating that that's not true. What I'm debating is there is not one single piece of evidence in the whole world that shows diets work long term for weight loss. So it's not like they're prescribing something that actually works.
No.
Okay, now I'll let you speak.
No, it's okay, don't worry. Because the thing is, I'm definitely in the same respect, because I've been told previously to do the 800-calorie diet.
Oh, for
And
fuck's
I was
sake.
like, what are you talking about? I was like, why are you even mentioning this to me? You're a doctor. You know
Wow.
this is not good.
Or do they?
Yeah.
This is the big problem. I mean, I feel like we've opened a whole can of worms here, but this is a problem, isn't it? And I'm not saying doctors are out to get us. Obviously, they're in the profession for the opposite, but they
Yeah.
need education on things that actually work, and diets do not work.
Yeah. And the thing is that they know that, but because they think, oh, well, it's a short-term solution.
Short term, exactly.
And that's the problem, is the fact that they're not thinking long-term for anybody.
Yeah.
And, you know, it doesn't work, because actually, as you know, we both know, the more that you diet, the more weight you end up putting
Ex-
on.
and your mental health also goes downhill. So it doesn't, it's not like it didn't work. It makes things worse in your
Yeah.
life in general. And then you end up in that vicious cycle and you feel so bad about yourself. And you've
Yeah.
got everyone telling you just lose weight. I mean,
And also because you basically, you think that you're broken and that you've done something
yeah.
wrong, that the diet, you couldn't follow the diet, so that's why you put the weight on. But that's not the case. It's the diet that's broken.
Exactly. And I think that is a good place to end, because I could go on forever about this.
I
But
know.
are there anything else that you would like to say, Laura, to someone who was the old you, let's say 1, 2 years ago, that thinks they're broken and
Mm.
is so shamed and trying to diet after diet after diet, and has heard this conversation, is like, oh my God, I would love to be in Laura's position right now. What message do you have for that woman?
I would I would say, here is a virtual hug,
Oh, yes.
because I know exactly how you feel,
Mm.
and I want you to know that there is another option, and that you can look at things differently and learn to love, parts of yourself that you never thought possible. And, Victoria is amazing and will help you on that journey, and if you need somebody that is in a larger body to talk to, then please reach out to me, because I would be more than happy to have a conversation with you about it. If you're on the fence, I would be more than happy to have that conversation with you.
I feel like I'm trying to blink tears away. Yeah, thank you, Laura. We're all in this together.
Yeah.
We're so needed. And I hope I know this conversation will be so helpful to so many. So if it has been, please tag this, screenshot this, tag us in your stories. I'll put Laura's Instagram in the show notes. And thank you so much for listening. And Laura, thank you for being such an incredible guest. I love you and I cannot wait for your wedding next year.
Me too. I can't wait. Thank you. I love you too. And it's been wonderful. Thank you for
You're
having
welcome.
me.
You're welcome.